The aging space station, Seoul Orbital, floated silently against the backdrop of stars. Chief Engineer Han stood at the viewport, his weathered hands clasped behind his back as he gazed at Earth below. The station wasn't impressive by modern standards. Patched panels and visible weld marks told the story of its 15 years in service. But Han felt pride in every repair, every improvement made by human hands. Another quiet day, his assistant Bai remarked, checking the daily maintenance log. Han nodded. Quiet is good. The alarm sounded without warning. Red lights flashed across the command center as technicians rushed to their stations. Unidentified vessel approaching, the traffic controller announced. No registered flight path. It's moving erratically. Han moved quickly to the main display. The object appeared on screen, sleek, with lines unlike any Earth vessel. More striking was the visible damage along its port side, trailing a plume of blue-white plasma energy. First contact, someone whispered. No, Han corrected. First emergency repair. Prepare the main bay and alert medical. They look like they're in trouble. The alien ship docked with surprising precision despite its damaged state. Han led the emergency team to the airlock, heart pounding but face composed. When the doors slid open, he found himself looking up at the tallest beings he had ever seen. Their skin shimmered with colors that shifted like oil on water. 3 aliens stood before him, their bodies thin and graceful. The tallest stepped forward. A device at its throat pulsed as it spoke, translating its melodic language. We request assistance. Our vessel suffers critical failure. Han bowed slightly. I am Chief Engineer Han. We will help you. The aliens followed Han's team to the wounded ship. Inside, Han saw technology beyond his understanding. Crystalline computers, gravity manipulation systems, metals that seemed to flow like liquid. Our quantum stabilizer has failed, the alien captain explained. Without replacement parts from our homeworld, repair is impossible. We hoped you might have communication equipment so we could request assistance. Han studied the damaged component. The design was alien, but the principles, energy flow, circuit pathways, material stress, these were universal. May I? He asked, approaching with a scanner. The aliens exchanged looks, but nodded. For 3 hours, Han and his team analyzed the stabilizer. They brought Earth metals, tested conductivity, discussed theories. The aliens watched with increasing curiosity as the humans worked with simple tools and materials never designed for such advanced technology. The polarity matrix is inverted, Han finally announced. The quantum field is feeding back on itself. Using modified Earth components and tools designed for human ships, Han's team crafted a bypass system. When they installed it, the alien ship's lights brightened and its systems hummed with renewed power. The alien captain's colors shifted to bright yellow. How did you know to reverse the polarity matrix? Our own engineers claimed this repair impossible without factory components. Han shrugged, wiping grease from his hands. Humans have been fixing things since before we left our planet. When you can't replace, you repair. When you can't repair by the book, you improvise. The aliens conferred among themselves, their melodic language like music. We are part of the Galactic Concordat, the captain finally said. In all our travels, we've never encountered a species that repairs what others replace. This skill of yours, it may be more valuable than you realize. 6 months after first contact, the repair station Daejeon Hub had become a busy port for alien ships. Engineer Kim sat cross-legged on the cold metal floor of Hangar 3, surrounded by strange components from the Nexus Corporation freighter that had limped in during the night shift. The parts looked like glowing blue coral, with tiny silver threads running through them. 3 tall Nexus representatives stood over her, their gray skin wrinkled with concern. Their translator device hummed as they spoke. This drive system uses proprietary technology, the lead representative said. It cannot be serviced without original parts from our manufacturing center. Kim picked up a damaged connector, turning it in her hands. The burnt edges told her everything she needed to know about the failure point. "How long for the parts to arrive?" she asked, not looking up. 3 weeks minimum for delivery," the alien replied. "Our nearest supply depot is 7 systems away." The freighter captain joined the conversation. "We carry perishable goods. 3 weeks means complete loss." Kim smiled and reached for her toolkit, a battered metal box passed down from her grandfather. "Give me 6 hours." The aliens exchanged skeptical glances. "Impossible. Our engineers trained for 15 years to work on these systems." Kim didn't argue. She simply began disassembling the damaged section. Her small hands moved with confidence, separating the alien technology into basic components. The fundamental physics remained the same, even if the materials were different. By midday, she had laid out the problem. The drive's energy transfer system used crystalline pathways that had fractured under heat stress. The Nexus design required complete replacement rather than repair, a philosophy Kim found wasteful. She called the station's metallurgy lab. "Son, I need a special alloy. Something with high conductivity, but flexible enough to handle thermal expansion." 3 hours later, Kim was carefully installing handcrafted connector pins made from a modified earth alloy. The pins weren't pretty, each slightly different, shaped by hand rather than machine, but they created perfect bridges across the damaged crystal pathways. The Nexus representatives watched in silence. Occasionally they whispered to each other, pointing at her unconventional methods. "You're bypassing 7 safety protocols," one finally said. Kim nodded. "Your safety systems are designed to prevent repair. I'm working around that." At hour 5, Kim connected the final component and stood up, stretching her stiff legs. "Try it now." The freighter captain gave the order. The drive hummed to life, its blue glow steady and strong. The diagnostic panel showed 97% efficiency, lower than factory new, but more than enough for safe travel. "Impossible," the Nexus representative whispered. "Our entire design philosophy states these components cannot be serviced outside our facilities." Kim packed her tools. "Different philosophies. You build for replacement. We build for repair." 3 days later, the station received emergency requests from 2 more Nexus vessels. A week after that, a ship from the Meridian Alliance arrived, asking specifically for the human repair method. Within a month, the subspace channels were buzzing with news of the human repair stations. Ships began diverting their routes, sometimes traveling extra days to reach a human facility rather than using alien repair docks. Station Director Yoon expanded the staff, hiring every engineer and mechanic he could find. As he told his board, "Humans have found our place in the galaxy, not through weapons or resources, but through something uniquely ours, our stubborn refusal to throw things away." Security Chief Daejung Ryu adjusted his eyes to the dim blue light of the underground cavern on Trinax IV. The air was thick with moisture and smelled of minerals. His hand stayed close to his sidearm, a habit from 15 years in Earth defense. The cave system stretched for miles beneath the planet's surface, hidden from orbital scanners by natural deposits of reflective ore. "The meeting point should be just ahead," whispered Hannah, checking the hand-drawn map they'd been given. Daejung nodded, careful to keep his footsteps quiet on the stone floor. "I still think this could be a trap." Their guide, a thin human colonist with deep-set eyes, pointed to a wider section of tunnel ahead. "They're waiting there. Remember, no sudden movements. The Kravashi are jumpy around new humans." The cavern opened up before them, its ceiling lost in darkness. Strange glowing fungi provided just enough light to see the group waiting in the center. 5 reptilian figures stood perfectly still, their scaled skin reflecting the blue glow. Their eyes, 3 on each face, blinked in different patterns. "Stay behind me," Daejung told Hana, though he knew the weapons expert could handle herself. The tallest of the reptilians stepped forward. Unlike the others who wore simple cloth wrappings, this one was dressed in what appeared to be modified pieces of various military uniforms. I am Sungmin, the alien said, its voice a combination of hisses and clicks translated through a device at its throat. Leader of the Kravashi resistance on this world. Dae-jung bowed slightly. Security Chief Ryu, this is Commander Park. We received your message about a possible alliance. The alien's middle eye narrowed while the outer two widened, an expression Dae-jung couldn't interpret. Your minds, Sungmin hissed, approaching slowly. They are like ours, resistant to the Arbiter's control. The Arbiters? Hannah asked. The ones who pretend to be benevolent rulers of the galaxy, another Kravashi said. The ones who turned our people against each other with their mental influence. Sungmin moved to a rough stone table where a map had been carved into the surface. For 300 cycles, they have controlled the major species through subtle mental manipulation. Those of us who can resist are hunted. And you think humans are immune? Dae-jung asked. Not all humans, but enough. Your repair stations, they threaten the Arbiter's control. Your way of fixing things, of finding solutions where others see only replacement, it shows independent thinking. Hana moved to the table, studying the marked locations. These are your resistance bases, and these are Arbiter strongholds. Yes, Sungmin confirmed. Your forces have technology, but your tactics are predictable, Hannah said bluntly. You attack head-on. You retreat when pressured. You're easy to trap. We can help with that. Dae-jung gave her a warning look, but the Kravashi leader seemed intrigued rather than offended. And in return? Dae-jung asked. Sanctuary, Sungmin replied, and a chance to strike back at those who rule the stars. The security chief considered this. Earth's expansion into space had been surprisingly welcomed by most alien species. Now he wondered if there was more to that welcome than simple diplomacy. If what you're saying is true, Dae-jung said slowly, why haven't these Arbiters moved against Earth directly? Sungmin's upper crest flattened, perhaps a smile. They are. 3 assassination attempts on your station directors. Manufacturing accidents at your repair facilities. Diplomatic pressure to standardize repair methods. Hana and Dae-jung exchanged looks. They had dismissed these as unrelated incidents. We need to warn Earth, Hana said. No, Sungmin hissed. The Arbiters monitor all official channels. For now, your greatest strength is that they underestimate you. Let them continue to do so, while we prepare. The navigation system cannot be repaired. It must be replaced. The tall blue alien spoke with absolute certainty, 6-fingered hands folded across his chest. The other 5 members of the delegation nodded in agreement. Senior Engineer Choi kept her face neutral despite her frustration. This was the 3rd time this week that aliens had insisted something was beyond repair. She pushed a strand of gray hair behind her ear and looked at the navigation unit on the workbench. May I at least examine it? She asked. The lead delegate, Ambassador Tull, made a gesture that might have been a shrug. You may, but the Unified Standards Committee has certified this unit as non-repairable when primary circuits fail. We brought it merely as an example of our technology for the cultural exchange. The Earth Galactic Technical Summit was in its 2nd day. Held at the Singapore Orbital Station, it was meant to foster understanding between human engineers and their alien counterparts. So far, it had only highlighted their differences. Choi picked up the navigation unit. It was beautiful, crystal and living metal fused together in perfect harmony. A hairline fracture ran through its core, interrupting what she assumed was the main processing pathway. What would your procedure be for this unit? She asked. Ambassador Tull touched a symbol on his wrist device. The unit would be disconnected, placed in a reclamation chamber for material recovery, and a new unit would be installed. The standardized replacement process takes 14 minutes. Choi turned the device over in her hands. And how long does it take to manufacture a new unit? 3 days in a properly equipped facility. Choi nodded and reached for her toolkit. The simple wooden box had been her grandmother's, a master electrician who had worked on the first Korean lunar habitats. Inside were tools both ancient and modern. "Your civilization developed in abundance," she said as she began to disassemble the outer casing. "Ours developed through scarcity and adaptation. When something breaks, your instinct is to replace. Ours is to fix." The aliens watched with expressions that might have been curiosity or concern. It was hard to read their features. Choi worked methodically, using a magnification visor to examine the fracture. She recognized the crystalline structure from a briefing on alien tech, similar to Earth quartz, but with different electrical properties. "This reminds me of the old Earth satellites," she said conversationally. "In the 2080s, we had a solar flare that damaged the communication grid. No replacements were available, so we developed a crystal rewiring technique." Her hands moved with practiced precision, using a microlaser to trace new pathways around the damaged section. She applied a conductive gel derived from Earth metals along these paths. "This technique was created by necessity," she continued. "The satellites were too expensive to replace, so we had to find ways to repair them with what we had." After 40 minutes of careful work, Choi connected a power source to the unit. Nothing happened. The delegation exchanged glances. "As we said," Ambassador Tull began. Choi raised a finger. "Wait." She made a final adjustment, reconnecting one last pathway. The navigation unit hummed to life. Its display projected a perfect star map into the air above the workbench. The diagnostic panel showed all systems functioning at 118% of original efficiency. The aliens fell silent. "How is this possible?" Ambassador Tull finally asked. "And why is efficiency above standard parameters?" Choi smiled. "The bypass I created actually shortens the processing path. Your original design prioritized standardization over efficiency. My repair improves it." "But repairs are temporary solutions," another delegate said. "Replacements ensure consistency." Choi carefully packed her tools. "Perhaps, but in my experience, there's something special about things that have been broken and fixed. They carry a history. They teach us about resilience." The lead alien studied the repaired unit. "This perspective is unfamiliar to us. That's why we're having this summit," Choi replied. "We have much to learn from each other." The first system to fail was life support. Captain Song was in the middle of his meal when the alarm sounded throughout Repair Station Busan. The lights flickered, then dimmed to emergency power. The air grew noticeably thinner within minutes. "Report," Song demanded, rushing into the control center. Engineer Min looked up from her console, face pale in the red emergency lighting. "Primary and secondary environmental systems are down. Backup is struggling. Someone sabotaged the main control nodes." Song moved to the station's main display. The damage was extensive, far beyond any normal system failure. "Deliberate," he muttered. The communication panel lit up. Lieutenant Kang answered, then turned to Song with concern etching deeper lines into his already serious face. "Sir, we're getting reports from stations Incheon and Jeju. They're experiencing similar failures, all within the last hour." Song's mind raced. 3 human repair stations disabled simultaneously couldn't be coincidence. This is coordinated. Alert Earth security. As his crew worked frantically to restore systems, another call came through. This one on the emergency channel. "Captain, incoming distress signal," Kang reported. "It's the diplomatic vessel Harmony." The view screen showed a sleek ship, its elegant lines marred by visible damage along one side. The Harmony was famous, a neutral vessel that carried diplomatic representatives from across the galaxy to various negotiations and summits. "They've suffered catastrophic engine failure," Kang continued. "Life support is failing. They're requesting immediate assistance." "How far?" Song asked. 4 hours at maximum emergency speed. "Any other repair vessels in range?" Kang checked the scanners. "None, sir. The Galactic Consortium ships are all at least 12 hours away." Min looked up from her repair work. "Sir, our station is barely functional. We're still trying to restore life support and main power. Song watched the damage reports scrolling across his screen. Someone had carefully planned this attack, disabling human repair stations just as a major diplomatic vessel needed help. Perhaps they wanted to prove humans weren't reliable. 17 species representatives aboard, sir, Kang reported after consulting his screen, including 3 high counselors from the Galactic Consortium. Song looked at his damaged station, then at his determined crew. Their faces were flushed from the thin air, but not one showed fear, just grim determination. Prep the emergency shuttle, Song ordered. We're going. Captain, Min protested. Our own systems. We'll hold long enough. Song turned to his executive officer. You have command of the station, Lee. Keep our people alive. Within 20 minutes, Song had assembled a repair team of 6 volunteers. They loaded the emergency shuttle with every tool and spare part they could gather. We'll be operating with limited resources, Song told them as they strapped in. The shuttle's small, so we can only take essentials. Whatever we don't have, we'll improvise. The shuttle pulled away from the wounded station. Through the viewport, Song could see repair drones working on the external damage. His station would survive. He had to believe that. As they accelerated toward the Harmony, Engineer Park reviewed the diplomatic vessel's schematics on her tablet. These engines aren't like anything we've worked on before, Captain. They use quantum entanglement principles that are theoretical, at best, from our perspective. Song nodded. Then we'll have to learn quickly. The shuttle's communication panel lit up. A message from Earth Command scrolled across the screen. Multiple stations under ATTCK. Suspicion of coordinated effort to DICREDIT human repair capabilities. Consortium political and PLICATIONS CEVOR. Song switched off the message. Politics didn't matter now. Only the people on that ship did. Maximum speed, he ordered. Those diplomats aren't going to die on our watch. The emergency shuttle docked with a harsh metallic clang. Captain Song led his team through the airlock into the Harmony, and immediately saw the extent of the damage. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows through corridors filled with smoke. Panicked diplomatic aides from a dozen species hurried past, some helping injured colleagues. This way, a tall, thin alien directed them. The engine room is 3 levels down. We've evacuated all non-essential personnel. The repair team followed, carrying their hastily packed equipment. Engineer Park scanned the ship's systems with a handheld device. Captain, this is worse than reported, she said quietly. The reactor is approaching critical instability. We have maybe 4 hours before complete failure. The engine room was chaos. Warning lights flashed across control panels. The central reactor chamber glowed an angry red through its observation window. 3 different alien engineers argued loudly near the main console. Who's in charge here? Song asked. A blue-skinned engineer with 4 arms turned. I am Chief Engineer Var. And you are too late. The quantum matrix is collapsing. The Harmony cannot be saved without a complete reactor replacement. Song ignored the defeatism. My team needs full schematics and access to all systems. While 2 of his engineers reviewed the technical data, Song inspected the reactor chamber. The quantum matrix, a crystalline structure that should have glowed with steady blue light, was instead crackling with unstable red energy. The containment field is failing, Engineer Jin reported, and the regulator assembly is completely burned out. We didn't bring spare parts for this system, Engineer Park added. No human facility has worked on this class of reactor before. Song considered their limited options. We adapt. Jin, take apart our shuttle's secondary power cells. Park, I need you to convert our standard field generators to match their containment specifications. For the next 2 hours, the human team worked frantically. They cannibalized parts from their own equipment and repurposed materials from non-essential ship systems. The alien diplomats gathered to watch from a safe distance, their voices hushed. Those materials aren't rated for quantum containment. One consortium representative protested when Song began installing modified field generators. They weren't, Engineer Min corrected. We've reconfigured them. As the third hour approached, they faced their biggest challenge. The regulator assembly needed to be reconnected to the main reactor, but the connection points had melted away. We need to create new connection pathways, Song said, studying the damaged components. But nothing will bond to these materials at these temperatures. He sat and thought for a moment, then opened a small personal case he carried. Inside was a set of ancient-looking metal tools. My grandfather was a metallurgist, he explained to the watching engineers. He taught me a technique from ancient Korean sword making, a way to join metals that shouldn't bond. Working with steady hands despite the reactor's increasing instability, Song carefully applied a compound his team had mixed. Using the old tools with practiced precision, he created new connection points through a process of heating, cooling, and pressure application. This technique is 5,000 years old, he told the watching aliens as he worked. Modified for space, of course. With 15 minutes remaining before critical failure, Song welded the final connection. The team held their breath as Park initiated the restart sequence. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the ship's systems came back online. The angry red glow faded to a steady, healthy blue. The warning lights stopped flashing. Containment field stable, Jin reported. Quantum matrix realigning. Reactor output at 92% and climbing. The consortium representative who had been watching most closely approached Song. His crystalline eyes reflected the blue glow of the now stable reactor. Impossible, he whispered. We were told this couldn't be done. Our best engineers certified this type of damage as non-repairable. Song wiped sweat from his forehead. Perhaps they should learn to redefine impossible. How did you know this would work? Another diplomat asked. Song looked at his team, exhausted but proud. We didn't. We just knew we had to try. The great hall of the Galactic Concordat shimmered with light reflected from 1,000 crystalline surfaces. Delegates from over 200 worlds filled the chamber, their varied forms creating a living tapestry of galactic diversity. At the center stood a simple wooden table, earth oak, brought specifically for this occasion. Ambassador Yoon adjusted her formal diplomatic uniform as she approached the table. Though she had practiced this moment countless times, the significance still made her heart race. Just 3 years ago, humans were newcomers to the galactic community. Now, they were about to become essential to it. The Treaty of Mutual Support and Repair Cooperation is ready for final signatures, announced the Concordat speaker, a tall being whose translucent skin rippled with colors that conveyed both words and emotions. Yoon stepped forward. Across the table, representatives from the 7 major galactic powers waited. The treaty document, both digital and physical versions, lay between them. The signing ceremony was brief, almost anticlimactic given its importance. One by one, the representatives placed their marks on the document. Some used appendages dipped in ceremonial ink, others pressed biosignature organs against sensors. When her turn came, Yoon signed with a simple pen, another earth touch she had insisted upon. With the final signature complete, the Concordat speaker raised all 4 arms. It is done. Earth is now officially designated as Repair Hub Prime for the Concordat territories. The treaty guarantees humanity's place in galactic affairs through their repair expertise. Applause rippled through the chamber, or various approximations of applause, depending on the physical capabilities of each species. Yoon accepted the congratulations with dignified nods, though inside she felt relief more than triumph. The diplomatic reception that followed was mercifully short. Most delegates seemed eager to return to their worlds with news of the treaty. Yoon stood near the exit, exchanging brief pleasantries as the alien dignitaries filed out. Only one being lingered. An elder from the Vash system. Ancient even by the standards of his long-lived species, he moved slowly on support mechanisms that whirred softly with each step. Ambassador, he said, his voice a gentle rumble. "I have watched your species with great interest." Yoon bowed slightly. "We are honored by your attention, Elder Thal. When you entered Galactic Society, many predicted your failure," the Elder continued. "Humans seemed too aggressive, too unpredictable. Yet here you stand, central to our future." "We found our place," Yoon replied simply. The Elder's eyes, all 5 of them, blinked in sequence. "Why do you fix things instead of replacing them?" he asked. "This trait puzzles many species. It seems inefficient." Yoon considered her answer carefully. This wasn't just diplomatic small talk. The Elder was known for his philosophical writings, which influenced policy throughout the Concordat. "Because on Earth, we learned long ago that everything deserves a second chance," she said. "Even the things others consider beyond saving." Elder Thal was silent for a moment. A remarkable perspective. "My people discard the broken without hesitation. Yet I'd wonder what we lose in doing so." "Perhaps that's why this treaty matters," Yoon suggested. "We all have different strengths to contribute." The Elder nodded slowly. Captain Song and his team saved 17 diplomatic representatives aboard the Harmony. That action alone changed many minds about humanity. "They were just doing their job," Yoon said. "No," the Elder corrected gently. "They were doing something uniquely human. They were refusing to accept failure as final." As the Elder departed, Yoon remained in the empty hall. The treaty data crystal in her pocket represented humanity's security in a dangerous galaxy, not through weapons or conquest, but through the simple, stubborn human trait of fixing what others would discard. She thought of her grandfather's repair shop in Busan, where she had watched him breathe new life into ancient machines. "Nothing is broken beyond repair," he used to say. "You just haven't found the right way to fix it yet." Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as healers of the broken.